Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Scurry and the Scrub. I'm Matt DeMarinis. That's my co-host, Jordan Scurry. The headliner of Scurry and the Scrub. I'm the Scrub, if you're wondering how that plays out.
I think they figured it out by now.
Well, you just never know. You gotta keep. We're still early
you got
this, right?
You're right.
On today's show, we've got Creighton women's basketball head coach Jim Flanery. His season wrapped up this weekend, so he's joining us to kind of recap it, and we're going to get into some national picture questions. But I guess first of all, Flan, how's it going, man? How these last couple of days been as you kind of try to decompress and process what you just went through in terms of trying to get a team through a pandemic, essentially?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, obviously we would have liked to have won a little bit more and kept playing in the NIT, but the good news is, as a basketball coach, when your season ends, you can sit on the couch a lot and watch a lot of basketball. And this year probably even more so because there have been weekday games. It hasn't been the, kind of Thursday to Monday thing. We've had games really all the way through the week. So I've been knocking off early and going home and putting the remote in my hand and going from there. So
you're not one of these guys who goes to TV shows. You go back to basketball. Like when you're not coaching basketball, you're still watching basketball
for a while. Yeah, for a while. And then, my postseason depression usually sets in right like after, sometime in April, after the national championships are over and you've been able to finish off March Madness and, kind of that in between the end of the NCAA tournament and the start of the NBA playoffs. Is when your seasonal depression kicks in for 2 or 3 weeks.
Gotcha. Who's Jackson rooting for these days? How old is Jackson now?
Jackson's 11, fifth grader. For whatever reason, he's still a Thunder fan.
Really?
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it that
no players left to root for, but
good players they have, and he's hanging on their draft picks. That I don't know. They got like 7 first rounders the next 3 years, and but he keeps saying "we" when it comes to the Thunder. But I think he's also realistic enough to know that the playoffs might be a few years away.
I didn't know 11-year-olds had concepts of draft picks and future plans and stuff.
Oh, they're all in it now.
Yeah, so he's locked. He's really locked in then, huh? Okay. Got a future GM on our hands over
here. He just knew they kept trading away all their good players, and he's like, well,
they're gonna be good sometime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone from rooting for KD and Russ to Chris Paul to now it's just future picks.
He got a Kevin Durant doll when he was 2, and I think that's kind of the genesis of his Thunder fandom is, playing with his Kevin Durant doll, and then all of a sudden he became by the time he kind of knew what was going on, he's like, okay, I'm gonna cheer for the Thunder.
Is he gonna root for the Nets in the playoffs, or what's he gonna do there? Is he just gonna?
I don't know. He's not a James Harden guy.
He's not James.
But that was the OG Thunder team though, with James Harden.
Yeah, I know that, but I think he picked up on him after. When did Harden leave the Thunder originally?
It was right after that title, that finals run. Yeah, they traded him away.
12-ish, I don't know.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I want to say 12, 13. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been out in the driveway more. I think he's been inspired by March Madness. He's been getting out in the driveway a little bit more. Weather's getting better.
Getting his 3-2-1 buzzer beater game on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But switching gears to you guys, 10-12. So I know you don't like losing records. But I mean, you did play a tough schedule. I think it was a top 50 strength of schedule at the end of the day after that, and I mean, just in terms of the Big East, only UConn and Villanova won postseason games if you don't include Big East tournament. So, what do you think of your season? Did you have a good season? Did you have a bad season? How do you process it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think first of all, the fact that we had a season was good, and you're grateful at least that you had that. And as you said, to get to 10, I told our staff after we won that 10th game in the NIT, I said, well, thank God we got to 10 wins, because I said it'd be kind of embarrassing if somebody asked you what what your record was and you told him you made postseason without double-digit wins, you'd
Right.
be a little bit ashamed. Yeah, I mean, I look at it like this. We played our best basketball at the end. And so we hung together. We got better. We played young kids and we fought through, I mean, not just the COVID issues. We just had injury issues. It would have been a hard year with just the COVID, but throwing in the injuries to Tatum and Rachel and Carly, 3 kids who were starters at the beginning of the year for us, I felt like it was, I wouldn't call it wildly successful, but I felt pretty good about where we landed. And just, I thought you and I have talked. I think Temi had just a really, really good senior year and left enough. I think she left enough of an impression that we should be pretty optimistic about the future, kind of, similar to where we were last year, losing Jalen and Olivia. And so we got a lot of young kids experience and they were able to kind of figure out how tough it is to win at this level, but also, that once you figure out some of the details that they can and we can win at this level with I think a fairly young team next year.
No. So, Coach, I actually wanted to ask you, so you talk a lot about just going through your season with the COVID and injuries. And obviously, like, I haven't actually I've talked to mainly players about how this season has changed and all that. But having you here, I wanted to ask the question, how do you think it has changed and shaped you, like, as a coach? Like, what did you learn? What was your biggest takeaway from coaching through this tough, weird year where you're having to battle these injuries and also the COVID protocols? Like, I know from a player's perspective, it gets frustrating. And then from a coach who you want to still have some structure and all that, how difficult was that to kind of deal with throughout the course of this year for you guys?
Yeah, it was, I think I'm glad I went through it later in my career because I've had this conversation, like the longer you coach, the better you ought to be at plan Bs and plan Cs, because you've had different things thrown at you over the course of your career, where you've had players get hurt and players who underperformed, players who overperformed, and so you have an appreciation for, okay, we have to, or even just within a game, Jordan, like hey, you might have a particular ball screen defense that's going to be your primary, but you have to have a plan B in case you're getting sliced up. But it's the same thing with the season. As a head coach, you have to say, okay, if we're to be at our best, this is the case. But what happens if our point guard gets hurt? What's our backup plan? What happens if if our wing players don't develop, or our post players don't develop, or how do we manufacture points when A and B are the case? And so I think from that standpoint, it was helpful that I'd coached a long time, just because I felt like this was playing C, D, E, F, G. A lot of times you're asking, okay, who's available on practice today? And so-and-so's out for how many, how long? And as you know, when you get to January and February, you spend the bulk of your practice time preparing for opponents. I mean, you do some skill work and you're working on your stuff too, but like, it became more the case that we just had to work on ourselves, because we were reintegrating a player, we were losing a player, we were reintegrating another player, losing a player. And so it became more about us and probably less about our opponent in January and February than normal. And there's some value in that too, because I felt like it did help us get better and play our best at the end of the year. And but yeah, it was a challenge. But I think the fact that I've coached a long time, it's easier to be level-headed about ups and downs and just working through, like you said, players being out because of COVID issues or being out because of injury issues.
How much easier did it make your job in terms of navigating that, having someone like Temi kind of take the reins and keep things organized? And not only that, but I mean, I think if you go back to that win at DePaul on the road, I think she averaged like 17 over the last like 9 games of the year, shot 50% from 3. I mean, she played the best basketball of her career at the end of her career. Like, how much did that just help you guys finish on the positive end of this thing because your best player played her best down the stretch?
Yeah, and a lot of that is because she was available all the time to practice, and to your point, we had to probably put in. I mean, we run a lot of motion offense, but we had to put in stuff because she was the one who was always available and healthy, and and she played her best basketball. I mean, I think that's what's really admirable about the year she had was that I don't think I expected her really to score the way she did the last 2 years of her career, but she did it, and she did it at 5'7", and so I'm amazed in some ways. And the other thing, because you're a stat geek, Matt, that like she was Temi's first few years, her shot attempts were close to 50-50, about she shot about 50% of her attempts were threes, and this year less than a third of them were threes. And what does that mean? That means she didn't have as many people getting her shots. I mean, she wasn't able to she didn't get open threes like she had when she played with Jalen and Olivia and Tatum and a healthy Tatum. So she was having to put the ball on the floor and shoot pull-ups and tough shots in the lane because she wasn't surrounded by as veteran a team, as good a passing team, to be honest. And so, I mean, just when I looked at her three-point numbers, her numbers overall the other day, and I thought, God, she only, less than a third of her attempts were threes, which for 5'7" is pretty impressive when, like I said, over the course of her career, about half of her attempts were threes.
When you try to, like, I don't know if you think about this or not, like when the season's coming to an end, do you think about the players that are ending their careers, and I don't know how much you're going to miss them, I guess? Like, does that enter your mind at all, or do you not even think about that till the season's over? Because it was like that it's almost like that with every special senior class, right? It felt like losing like Jalen and Liv, it was going to be hard to replace Jalen and Liv because what they did was so unique. But then, like, here we are down the stretch now, and I'm watching Temi just play her ass off and finish on such a high note, and I'm like, man, that's going to be tough to replace. Same thing with MC. When MC made the run in Chicago, when she just went bananas, it's like, and then you guys lost her, before conference play even started the next year. It's like, how do you replace that? And then you guys won the league that year. So it's like, do you think about that stuff at all? Do you find yourself like, not using as wide a perspective, and then on top of it, like, what does Temi mean to you as a program, or like, what's going to be hard to replace about her?
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, at least I do. Because you just appreciate what they give you, and you're, as a coach, you're always kind of looking forward to. I mean, you're in the moment and you're in the season, but you're also, like, you have assistant coaches telling you need to call this recruit, and so you're also thinking about next year and how the program spins forward, and so you're constantly made to reflect about what it's going to be like without Jalen and Liv, or without Temi, and yeah, I just think, first of all, her defense, what she does defensively, we always start out by saying, hey, Temi's got their best player. It's kind of like last year with Jalen. Hey, not only does Jalen give us 21 a game, but, we always start how we're going to defend with, well, how can we best utilize Jalen, and how can we best utilize Temi defensively? So those are things that you're thinking about. But yeah, you absolutely do. And you tell them that too. I don't wait until senior day usually to kind of, I'll usually try to throw in before practice a couple times in February, hey, like, we gotta make sure that we're honoring our seniors by giving the best that we can over these next 4 or 5 weeks, so that so that we can send them out right, and just to kind of put a little bit more on the underclassmen to understand that, yeah, they may have 3 years left or 2 years left, but just to kind of value that, because if they can get a freshman or a sophomore who's playing into the gym a little bit more, so you can win that one more game for that senior, that, you know, those things are important, and you want your seniors to hear that more, like I said, more than just on senior day.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of talked about a lot how Temi was like a leader, and I've heard it and I've read it many times how you even said she sets the tone, sets the pace and all that. But I think a lot of this year, what was tough just about leaders, and I think about my role on our Creighton teams and how a lot of the stuff that a lot of my impact was off the court, right? And just like conversations with guys and being able to lead off the court too. How difficult do you think it was this year for like leaders of your team like Temi to try to lead off the court, where sometimes you, like you just said, sometimes you want to pull somebody into the gym, but with all these COVID restrictions and all that, like sometimes you can't even, like I've heard times now you can't even go to the gym with another person sometimes. So how difficult was that, do you think, to navigate for the leaders of your team?
Yeah, I think it was tough. I think it was hard. You know, Tatum probably has a little bit softer side than Temi's great on the court, and she's a good leader in some ways, but Tatum's got that softer side where I think she was a good ear for those people who were struggling a little, and you know, we were all struggling a little at some points this year.
Yeah,
and I just
definitely,
you know, we're doing player meetings this week, and I just said everybody's got scars from this year. Some are deeper and some have more, but I said we all have scars because this has not been the year that we wanted it to be. And so I think, to your point, Jordan, that part was even probably harder because you have a little less interaction off the court, and even then you're masked, and it's like you said, you're going through these protocols to be together, and sometimes it's not worth going through all the protocols to do that. Hey, I'm just going to hang out in my room because that's just the easiest thing. And so I think that was probably a major challenge. And you know, we've talked as a staff that, you know, there were times where we probably dropped the ball as far as just being as intentional about making leadership prominent this year, because there were so many barriers that our players were going through, and you know, how can we learn and get better at that? And because I think that was just a greater challenge than normal.
I know we got a short time here, so I want to try to knock these topics out. I want to switch gears a little bit to a little bit wider perspective of the women's game in general. I mean, you saw this year the WNBA had record numbers in terms of viewership and following, especially because of social media and how outspoken they were this summer with all the social issues going on. I wonder, like, when you saw a situation like the weight room disparity between the men's tournament and the women's tournament, are you surprised by that stuff anymore? Are you numb to it at this point, or do you just like feel almost like, really, why is this still happening in an era where there's so much awareness to the fact that it is wrong and it shouldn't be happening anymore? Like, where do you land on it when you see a situation like that? Because you've been in this game now for, you know, what, 3 decades now? So like, but I mean, you've seen a lot of the disparity between, you know, the haves and the have-nots, and what goes through your mind when you see it come to the forefront?
Well, first of all, I think some things are worse than others. I think we do pile on sometimes. We take one thing and we make it, or two or three, and we make it about everything. But yeah, the weight room thing is indefensible in my opinion. Like, that's because we talked about that at our conference level. Hey, because we're going to be at our conference tournaments for, 5-6 days if you keep winning and advancing. So we need a workout area for players who are rehabbing, and coaches who want to go walk on a treadmill for a little bit, or so to me, the fact that they assume that some of those teams are going to be there for 3 weeks. To assume that they're not going to have an opportunity to work out, or the players who aren't getting to play, or like we said, players who are rehabbing an injury, that to me was indefensible. Some of the other stuff I think is potentially a little bit overblown, because I don't know. It's hard to know on the ground in San Antonio. Do they have the leadership in place that Indianapolis does? Because somebody was saying, hey, Indy, nobody does amateur sports better than Indy. Nobody has more experience doing it. Nobody's done it more and better than Indy. So some of that stuff falls on probably the fact that San Antonio just is nimble in terms of putting that together. And I think we made a mistake as far as we waited a little too long to even announce it's, commit to San Antonio. So I think that was because we had been hearing rumblings about, even before the men announced Indianapolis, they were saying, well, it's either San Antonio or Boston, Jordan. As far as the women's final, the entire women's tournament, they were throwing out Boston as a potential site, and then they settled on San Antonio. But so I think part of it was they waited a little too long, so they dropped the ball on maybe some things. Like, could the court look better? Yeah. But I think the weight room thing is completely indefensible. And I think I think it's great though that, you've seen so many men's players and NBA players who've taken up, and because as you're talking about the WNBA, I mean, Kobe's presence with the WNBA was a huge boost for that league. And, in terms of legitimizing it, it's one thing for Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe to cry out for equality. But I think when you elicit men and have men who are strong voices who legitimize women's sports, that matters too. And so, I mean, I think it's good, but I also think it's, we're also now at the point where we seem to pile on, and because the fact is the woman who's running that part of it is Lynn, there's a woman, Lynn Holtzman, who's in charge of making sure that doesn't happen. So it's easy to criticize the NCAA, but there's a woman who is the Dan Gavitt on the women's side, whose job was to make sure that weight room didn't look like that. And so,
and I think you're right about the piling on part, but I think the way where it comes from is the fact that the weight room thing was exposed prior to the tournament starting. So it was like, and then everybody was like, I mean, it was kind of your reaction. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, why would it enter your mind in terms of planning to think that was sufficient for an entire, not just one, like, it's not a little pod. The whole tournament is here. You know what I mean? Like, that was the whole shebang. It's not like 4 teams in Omaha get one little weight bench. It was like, that was like the whole 64. Then the tournament starts and you see the other ways that it's just not as big of a deal, right? Like the other things that are falling short, and you're like, okay, do you care about anything? Like, even from an imaging standpoint, you just slap women's basketball on the court, and it's just like, it's
that's
just
what killed me.
So that was the thing. It was like, is there any part of this that there was pride taken in terms of planning and organization? But it goes to your point about saying they didn't even have the ducks in a row for San Antonio the whole time. Like, it took too long to do that, even probably because they didn't know if they were going to have one, I assume. But when you're operating in this type of year, but
I don't know if you and I have talked about this before, Matt, but like I've always felt like we've done this a little bit, but on the women's side, like, I think we should move our tournament I'd be a proponent of moving our tournament a week or two so that it doesn't just go head to head with the men's.
I agree.
Because I feel like
I completely agree.
I feel like it's just it's overshadowed. And there were, the men's games, the second round was over early in the week, so there were only women's games on the last couple of days. But even as a basketball junkie, there's a little bit of me that's like, okay, do I want to sit? Do I want to watch 4 women's games today? Whereas if it was 2 weeks later, I think we've missed an opportunity there. Go ahead, Jordan, because I know you want to.
I know, I completely agree, just because I think about what's so fun about March Madness is like these, when you think about the Cinderellas and like the underdogs and the storylines, you love following the teams, right? And I
Yeah.
think giving it that 2 week gap, then you can get more invested in these women's teams. Like last night, I'm getting all wrapped up in just like the Texas A&M and all these games. Like it's more fun when you're following from the beginning and you're like, oh, I've been following this team that made this run, instead of just in between the men's tournament, I'm watching a little bit of women's, and then when the men's one ends and the championships are coming around, we watch both at the same. I think it's better to I think it would be well suited to highlight them better. But again, like you allude, like this year has been weird, so I think it might have had a lot to do with that too. So I don't know. I hope there is change soon with it, though.
I think one area that one opportunity, major opportunity that the women have right now is this matchup on Saturday. Like Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark. Like, first of all, I don't know who determines the like Naismith and Wooden finalists. Like, I know it's voters in some regard, but like I'm just saying, I got a Naismith ballot. I know Caitlin Clark was one of my finalists, but when I got it back to choose of the final four, she wasn't on it, and I'm just like, all right. You got a kid that's literally leading the country in scoring and is second in assists as a true freshman in the Big Ten conference. Like, if you tell me, like, just go to the men's side, and I know we should probably stop comparing this at some point, but if you're telling me Ayu Dosunmu from Illinois leads the country in scoring and is second in assists and he's not the runaway player of the year in the nation, I'm like, there's no argument for that. Like, that player would be the shoe-in National Player of the Year. There wouldn't even be a discussion. But Caitlin Clark isn't even a finalist for this thing, and it blows my mind that she can walk through the Big Ten Conference putting up those type of numbers when they've got Iowa, who walked into the Sweet 16, Michigan, who walked into the Sweet 16, Indiana rolled through the first weekend, Maryland rolled through the first. That's a legitimate league, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she cooked
Very
it.
legitimate.
She torched it all year as a true freshman, and she's not a finalist. So that's why I'm so excited for this matchup, because it's almost like she's been under the radar as a stud, and now she gets Paige Bueckers, that one-on-one matchup. You know what I mean? They both play the same position. I'm so stoked for that thing. I wonder, like, and you guys recruited Caitlin, so you have a relationship with her because her cousin obviously is Audrey Faber, so she was a stud for you guys. Like, are you excited for this matchup? Like, is it get your blood boiling when you see that they're gonna go head to head? Are you hyped as we are right now? Or are we going over the top?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
are we blowing this out of?
Yeah, over the top is kind of what we do, though. So that's kind of our
I think it'll be fun. I think you're right. Caitlin she's kind of must watch because she's a high risk player too. So she's going to turn the ball over, but she's going to make, some insane plays too. And she's going to take some shots that you think, God, that's not a good shot, but it's going to go in like 3 times in a row. Whereas Paige is not as risky. I mean, as a passer, she can be, she's surrounded by a little better players, obviously. Paige is. So, and Paige is not, she's not naturally as comfortable scoring the ball. Like, I feel like she, because we watched her, she's a Minnesota kid. We watched her play quite a bit. Because we were recruiting kids on our team, not Paige. We kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. But, but she's more of a natural pass first point guard, whereas Caitlin is a really good scorer who also passes really well, is kind of how I would characterize her. But the thing that's impressive about Paige is that she's scored the ball more because I think they've needed her to score the ball more, and she's been able to make that adjustment as a freshman and become a really good 3-point shooter, which she was a moderately reluctant 3-point shooter in high school because she could get to the rim so easily and she was such a good passer. She didn't shoot a lot of threes, and yet now at the college game she's done that. And Caitlin I knew would be good as a freshman, but I'll be honest, I didn't think she would be this impactful. I think, first of all, she plays on a team where they are Iowa always is a very good offensive team. They're a great spacing team, and so I knew she'd be good, but I didn't think she'd be this good. And her numbers are a little large because of the pace that they play.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a little bit of a, up and down component, but 27 points is still 27 points. I don't care if you're playing fast. That's still,
Right.
I mean, that's still a lot of points. So, I think it'll be an entertaining game. I don't know if Iowa can guard UConn well enough to keep it close for 4 quarters. I mean, maybe if UConn doesn't, I mean, I would expect Iowa to play a lot of zone or have to trick it up a little bit, because I don't think they can guard them without being a little gimmicky, or at least playing zone. And they're going to have to hope that UConn doesn't shoot it great, because I think Iowa will present some challenges defensively for UConn. But the other thing is, I think UConn will rotate defenders on Caitlin. I think they've got really couple of different people that they could put on her. And if Mule, the freshman guard, plays, if she plays, I think they'll put her on her. And so I think they'll rotate people on her. And, so I think it'll be interesting. And I will say UConn got better defensively over the course of the season. When we played, I know we didn't score very many points against them when we played them in December, but that was because we missed open shots. Whereas I feel like the longer I've seen them, the more they've gotten better defensively. And so I think Iowa's going to have to take care of the ball. I mean, Caitlin can't be at eight or 9 turnovers. She's got to be at 4 or 5.
Yeah. Like, do you think the matchup is going to be tough? Like it could get sideways on Iowa if Caitlin isn't, I mean, even if Caitlin's special, it might get sideways because of how good UConn is on the defensive end of the floor, especially inside too. Like, it's going to be really hard for Iowa, as much as they do it, to score inside on, Olivia Nelson-Ododo and Aaliyah Williams and Aaliyah Edwards, excuse me. But do you think this is they're on ABC, they're on Saturday, it's an afternoon tip off, like Paige Caitlin. Is this like, are you watching this to see how much how many eyeballs this thing generates in terms of what the women's game can possibly grow into if the WNBA uptick filters down into the women's game and they start marketing their stars a little bit better at that level?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job. I mean, Caitlin's gotten a lot of attention in the last week, and so has Paige. I mean, I think the women's game does a good job of hyping the top. As somebody who's hasn't always been at the top, I wish they'd do a little bit better job of making their way down the pole a little bit. But I think we've always done a good job, or for the most part, we've done a good job over the last decade or two of highlighting the best that we have. I just think sometimes we get too, the UConn train, is hyped, but we don't necessarily get it as far down in the weeds or as we could. So, but I think it's great. It's on ABC. I mean, I think it's going to be fun to watch, and I think for the sport, the fact that those two are only freshmen is that can only help us too. For
sure. Yeah, I can't wait. Jordan's hyped too.
It's gonna be hype. I'm ready. I got my popcorn ready.
That's what I mean too. Like, this is a popcorn matchup because they are both so dynamic with the ball in their hands. I mean,
but I think it's what makes Caitlin, like we talked about just the turnovers though. I think that's what makes her, like we talked about how just she Paige is more of a pass first. I think Caitlin's more exciting to watch just because she will make make like that mistake that all of us have made before, and we're like, okay, we gotta make up. I gotta make up for this, and then she will actually make up for it.
Yes,
like 3 times over, and so it's gonna be. I'm excited for that reason.
That's what I'm saying too. Like about Caitlin, it's like you see. I think the common advice to a player who is mistake prone is like have a short memory about it. But like with Caitlin, it's
they tell you, let the game come to you. Let the game go get it.
Yeah, Caitlin is the kind of kid who makes a mistake and gets mad at herself and goes and corrects it like in an absurdly legendary way. Like if she misses a cutter and throws the ball out of bounds, she's gonna come up and like knock down a 27-footer off the dribble on the next possession. Like that's the kind of switch she has. She's like, all right, I'm gonna make up for that in an epic way here on this next possession. And I know as like a coach, Flan's like probably cringy.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
you're gonna make mistakes worse in that situation. But she's so good. She's got like that Steph Curry switch. Like Steph would do some crazy stuff, and he'll go behind his back to try to hit Clay in the corner and hit a fan in the face with it. You know what I mean? But then he'll come down and like pull from the logo on the next possession just in case you forgot, kind of thing. That's what Caitlin does. Like she'll make mistakes, but then she'll come back and make you forget about it, not make her forget about it. So I'm so excited for this matchup because of that. Because that's when I know they're wired like that. I know that they're gonna go at it. So like I you know that they're both killers. So I'm like, yes, give me 2 ball dominant killers that are like skilled as hell.
Actually, that can control the game.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So I can't wait for this matchup. Let's get into this Gonzaga matchup a little bit here for Sunday.
The second matchup of the weekend.
The second matchup of the weekend, right? I don't know how much you've been able to watch of them because obviously you've been in your own season, but what stands out to you about the things that Gonzaga does so well to put themselves in position here to be undefeated and have a chance to actually do something that hasn't been done in about 40 years? Is it 50 years? When was the last time Indiana was
76?
Yeah, 50 years almost.
76.
76.
First of all, do you remember that at all, Flan? Do you remember the 76?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scott May, Quinn Bueckner.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, good.
Beat Michigan in the title game.
Nice. How old were you?
Big 10, 80-62, I think it was.
Wow.
Wow.
So it wasn't even like
I could be wrong, but I'm sure I watched it. Those old school Indiana warm-ups, you know.
For sure. Pinstripes.
New school too. Same ones they still have.
Yeah.
They brought them back.
When I don't know how much you've seen of this Gonzaga team, but like what stands out to you in terms of what makes them so like that good, like that level good?
Yeah. I think they're again, I see them a lot late at night where I can't stay up for the whole game, and I don't really need to because they've already carved out.
They put it away.
Lead, so I'm like, Gonzaga basketball.
Second half, but they're balanced just like they always are. I think they're a little better defensively. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, I think Suggs defensively gives them, you know, somebody, and then just, you know, they're mobile. I think Temi he's deceptive. He's like, I'm worried about foul trouble, I think, because his body is just different. Not, you know, and so I think, you know, I don't know what the differential will be between him and Christian, but I feel like that's something that I think we have to kind of hold our own in the post. I would expect them to go inside, especially, and you know, Ryan is young enough and not, so even though he's got more length than Christian, it's, you know, strength and inexperience. So I think that matchup is going to be something to watch. But I think that, you know, just the game that we played with them in 3 years ago I went to, and I mean, you look up and it's 70-70-ish, you know, with 10 minutes to go in the game, and you're like, God, we're right there. And then all of a sudden it's 82-70, and you're not going to stop them enough to overcome that 10 or 12 point lead. So I think that's the thing. You know, I watched a decent amount of their Oklahoma game, and it's like, you know, Oklahoma hung in there, but boy, you just got to keep scoring to stay with them, and that's tough to do. But, you know, I think the thing is, if we make shots and the game gets in the second half, it's an NCAA tournament game. If it's close with 13, 12 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, even 15 minutes to go, you never know how pressure affects those, you know, 20 to 22-year-olds. But I do think we obviously have to maintain, you know, we can't let them get too much separation where they can play comfortable and loose and from ahead. So, but yeah, I think it'll be great to watch. I think we can score on them. I think it's going to be a question of, can we get it to that point in the second half where the pressure of the season that they've had kind of affects them a little bit.
I just like, You're so right about their spurt ability too, because I think I was watching their BYU game from the WCC championship last night,
Yeah.
and first of all, BYU hung 53 on them in the first half, and they lost by 10.
Yeah.
And Creighton did Jordan knows the last time you guys played them 48-41 at halftime, and you gave up 62 in the second half. That's just like what they do.
They are one of the best halftime adjustment teams, because I even talked about it before on this podcast. Like, I've never seen someone as surgical as Zach Norvell when he came to Omaha, because in the first half, I like remember saying so many times, I'm like, oh, we got his number. We're in his head. Nope. He was just picking his spots. Like, he was seeing where he could get his shots from that he was going to like kill in the second half. And so I think knowing that, like, going into this one, it's like, don't let any of them even, like, none of them can even try to get comfortable in the first half. Because it's like, if they're surgically trying to get comfortable in the first half, it's just setting up for that second half. This is what they're really going to turn it on. They like feel you out in the first half in close games, and then just put it on you in the second half. So yeah, it's really going to be just about keeping that close, keeping it within striking distance, and then going for the kill late game.
But it's just like Flan said, you got to score to beat them. Like,
yeah,
you can have the greatest defensive game plan in the world in terms of what you feel like you want to take away from them, but at the end of the day, you have to score to beat that team. Like, that's
absolutely.
Just, you know what I mean? It's just, that's what it's going to come down to. It's just the BYU game. Like, it was like, I'm trying to think, it was like 68-61 with like 8 minutes left. Remember, this is the game they won by 10.
Mm-hmm.
There's 8 minutes left. They're still -7 on the board. Like, the way they can just they scored. I think they outscored them 27-9 to end the game in the 8 minutes. 8 minutes.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's just not. There are very few teams in the country that can pull off that type of barrage, and for them it just comes naturally, because it wasn't even within all the time within the flow of an offensive structure. Sometimes Jalen Suggs is just like, he saw his man go under a ball screen on back-to-back possessions, which is what you're supposed to do with him, because he's not, he's more dangerous downhill than he is on the perimeter. So, his defender went under the ball screen 2 times in a row, and he pulled up from 2 feet behind the line and cashed both of them. And then Gonzaga's now they're hyped up because the man that doesn't usually go back-to-back from the 3 line got 2 in a row to swish. Now you got to worry about Kispert. Now you got to worry about Temi inside, and like, it just snowballs on you. They have that crazy. They're like Flynn said, the way they can do that to you in spurt ability. You can't beat them on the defensive end. You can make a play or two on that end that might help you win at the end of the day, but the way you win that game is on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to break in here. Flan has got to go to his next meeting, so I apologize, but I got to get him off.
No, we appreciate it, Flan. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I know we went through a wide range of topics here, but I always like picking your brain on stuff. So
no, that was great. I appreciate it, and hopefully, we can celebrate a victory Sunday and get another one on Tuesday, right?
For sure, yeah. Just keep it rolling. Yeah.
Take down the entire West Coast. Right?
It is like a West Coast bracket, and then little old Creighton sitting there.
It's like, there have been rumors out there that Gonzaga is going to join the Big East. We might as well,
right.
If we beat them, and maybe they'll join. So anyway, yeah, appreciate talking hoops with you guys.
For sure. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Blaine.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, man, that Gonzaga matchup is going to be wild. Like, what do you?
Wild.
I mean, you agree, right? Like, it's on the offensive end on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
they're gonna have to put up. They're gonna have to go crazy. And like what I was just saying, right, about like how they are so strategic in the first half. That's where Creighton has to just be like, we have to come out like crazy and just try to get as much separation in this first half as possible. Like, and just shock them. Like, just shock them right out the gate, and then be like, oh wait, they're up 20. Like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
But I say this, and then I worry about Creighton with leads. Like, Creighton is like the last team I like kind of want to have a lead, because I want them to just keep it close and then get the lead at the end, because that works a little bit better for this team. But I think with this game, it's going to have to be create as much separation as possible, because in the second half, it's coming. So if you can just put that, I guess, barrier up of like
Yeah, that's interesting.
good cushion of a lead, they'll be all right. But it's gonna
So
be
you-
tough,
so you
man.
think- you
This
think
is
they-
not a
you-
team that lets up points in bunches. They
Yeah,
just
so you
don't.
think because of Gonzaga's spurt ability that Creighton needs to put a lead together early? Because I was
I think
wondering.
it would be helpful.
Because here's what I was
think it would be-
wondering. Here's what I was wondering for you. Like, what if Creighton just hangs around and keeps up pace and like is going shot for shot with them and like making big plays that don't let Gonzaga get away, and then in the last 5 minutes it's just like who can make the biggest shots? Like, is that a
See, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking was the recipe.
uh-huh.
But now I'm almost. I actually no. I guess I will say I think that's more the recipe to success than creating that cushion, because I guess at the end of the day I just outed myself. I just don't trust this team as much with like a big lead
Yeah,
just at
right.
halftime. And just in my experience, I think that was my junior year a lot. Like we were the worst like team with a lead going into like the last 8 minutes like
Yeah.
in the league at one point. So I just think, yeah, this team keep it close, and hopefully instead of Gonzaga hitting their spurt late game, Creighton can put
That's
a
what-
string
yeah.
together. Yeah.
Right? Because like as much as we
Yeah.
talk about Gonzaga's spurt ability, Creighton has it too.
Yes, we
yeah.
hit on that like week 3, I swear.
Right. So that's the one I kind of wonder, like, if I'm trying to think, if you get a game where it's neither team can get away from each other, and then it comes down to crunch time, that under 4 timeout. All right, coming out of here, who's got three of their best possessions of the game right here? Like, who's got that? I kind of feel like that might be Creighton's way to do it, because it does go to what you say about protecting the lead. You'll give Gonzaga the edge if you do that. I think it's
True.
different.
You don't.
It's
I
different
agree.
if it's like an Oregon
agree.
Iowa
Now
thing. If you're getting constant runouts and they're not really
Yeah.
stopping you,
Yeah.
you can kind of like make them quit. But I just don't
Mhm.
think Gonzaga is going to be like Iowa. I think they're always going to be like,
I agree.
we're a couple minutes away. So I think if
You kinda-
Creighton stays in it, let's just say this: if Creighton builds a lead, I think they're going to get naturally complacent, and Gonzaga will play with a crazy edge. And once Gonzaga snatches the momentum in that situation, Creighton can't take it back from them. So that's just the way Gonzaga's wired. So I think for Creighton's best chance, it's almost like just go punch for punch the whole way, and when it gets to round 15, like Rocky 2, then you just go balls out and like go for the knockout. You know what I'm saying?
Don't throw the best punch in the first half.
Exactly.
In other words.
Yeah. Just stay there. Just
I
stay
agree
in the
with
fight.
that.
Stay in the fight. Let them know you're not going away. And then when you get to that, last
But
5 minutes or under 4 timeout, then let the haymakers fly like that.
But see,
Because then your season's on the line. You can put the same edge that Gonzaga would trying to chase you down. You know what I mean?
True.
Yeah.
But the only reason that makes me nervous is if Gonzaga comes out and throws their best punch.
I know. But I mean, that's what I mean. Gonzaga's so good they can throw effective stuff at you, and it won't even have to be their best. That's what I mean. Like Gonzaga can beat Creighton on Sunday without playing their best.
Yeah.
Creighton can't beat Gonzaga on Sunday without playing their best. I believe.
Agreed.
I don't believe
Agreed.
Creighton's like A- game beats Gonzaga.
I
Do
agree.
you? Okay.
I agree with that completely.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. I think they just got to convince themselves they can beat this team for like 20 to 30 minutes and then put them away.
Do you think Hinkle's going to have to do with this game at all?
I don't know. Both teams. Honestly, I don't know. They changed the rims up, so I think both teams played pretty well at Hinkle. But I think if Hinkle Magic favors anyone, it's always the underdog. Like that's never a debate, right? And Gonzaga went in there. What was Gonzaga ranked when they went into Hinkle to play Butler and Roosevelt Jones hit the game winner? Weren't they top 5 at the time? So they've had their heart broken.
Put that bad juju back out in the universe. Let's go find that.
Yeah,
can we get that?
we gotta
resurface that when we get off this. We'll resurface that.
I think it was the year before the Zags went to the Big East, like the year before the switch. Like they beat them at Hinkle. So Gonzaga has been on the wrong end of Hinkle Magic before. So
ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like
I think Creighton looks awfully comfortable playing at Hinkle. I did not want to say it last. Well, I mean, I kind of said last game that they looked very comfortable there, but it looks like a place that they played before.
Well, I think it's more comfortable. It's probably more comfortable playing someone other than Butler there, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody other than
it was probably a relief. Like, oh shit.
But it's also nice playing. It must have been nice playing a school like Ohio, who's definitely never played in a barn like Hinkle. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. Like, I love this matchup because I think Creighton can score with them. It's all about.
I do too.
I should say this. I think Creighton's gonna get the shots it wants. I don't. Hitting is one thing. Like, you just never know if it's your day or not. I do think Mitch, Denzel, DJ, Christian, and Marcus all have to be on today or on Sunday.
Yeah,
like all five have to be hitting.
Damn, today you need them to be on today? No,
I mean, yeah, let's just start it today and like ride the wave. But I just watching I think the BYU matchup is the most similar in terms of pace and shooting prowess. Bishop Christian is not like Matt Harms where he's like a back to the basket 7-footer, but Harms was a problem for Gonzaga and Christian will be too in different ways. But I think Creighton's going to get good shots because I don't think Gonzaga's ball screen defense is like, they load to the ball. So Creighton Marcus is so good at flipping the floor, and those guys are so good at playing on the weak side and finding those spots on the corner and the wing. Like Creighton's going to get open shots. I think they will. I agree. If they hit them,
they'll get open shots, especially in just watching the BYU game because like BYU doesn't even have the kind of athletes Creighton had, and you can see their game plan was just to get certain shots by ball movement, penetrate, kick, and Creighton has the athletes and has Marcus who can control the tempo of offense to make sure they're getting those shots, right? Yes. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So I think they'll get the shots. I just got to really capitalize. And I think it's, again, in the first half, knowing like just seeing it too. So, right, like it's like, even just like I was talking about the Zach Norvell thing, it's like seeing those shots that you're going to have in the first half and being like, okay, this is how they're guarding me. And like seeing all of that, like especially for a Denzel and a Marcus.
Like I think Marcus is the best point guard they faced all year.
Yep.
Because they beat I think he's better than what Virginia has. I think he's better than Bohannon at Iowa.
Yeah.
So he's the best. So that's from that standpoint, Gonzaga's facing something new. He's the best point guard they faced all year.
So give me your.
I think Mitch is the best range shooter they faced all year, and I think DJ is the best slasher they faced all year, like the best 3-level slasher. Because he can.
So how you think? Break me down how that matchup goes in your head right now.
Which Marcus one? Marcus and Suggs. Marcus and Suggs.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, Suggs was playing horrifically against BYU, and then all of a sudden he cashed 3 straight stupid threes, where it's like, why are you shooting that? And then it's a straight cash. So he's super talented, and when he's showing off the high end version of those skills, he's impossible to stop at this level. Like he just is. Creighton doesn't have anybody who can stop him if he's on. He's so dynamic going downhill. He's got great elevation at getting to the rim and finishing. His handles are good. He's good at getting to that pull up, but from a point guard standpoint, he doesn't change pace like Marcus does. I don't even think it's comparable. Like he's a 1-speed player. Like he's when he's on, he's the pedals to the floor. Marcus,
he's more of a transition point guard. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
He's more of like the modern day point guard where it's like a get out and go.
Yeah, open the floor up, give that guy driving lanes. Yes.
Where Marcus is more of the half court.
Yeah, Marcus can walk the ball up and can go through, can navigate ball screens, can read defenses, can play at different speeds. He keeps his dribble alive really well. He was great against Ohio. He probed that defense so well. Like he got inside, right side of the floor, left side.
He didn't take a single shot. I noticed that he didn't take a single shot against Ohio that like was forced. Like he took all the shots that he took in that game. He wanted to take. He just missed them. Like there was nothing that
100%.
Never felt pressure.
For sure.
Continue.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think so. From the differences standpoint, Marcus is better at playing at different speeds than Jalen is. I don't even think it's close. And I wonder how that might affect Gonzaga because their defense is very it's very aggressive. You know what I mean? They're tough to score on inside because they don't let you get there easily, and then they try to turn you over and get out and run that way. And then I think some of their offense makes their defense a little bit better because they're so good offensively that you'll force stuff on your end of the floor to try to keep up with them. And it's not necessarily what their defense is making you do. It's almost what you're making yourself do. So I think if Creighton just like stays composed, they'll be able to score at will on this team. I mean, like seriously, at will, because they're going to get to all the spots they like to get to, and they're going to get good.
That's what that's why I'm saying stay composed though, because
Yes,
they're going to give them fool's gold in the first half, where it's like they'll probably give, I don't know, like Denzel easy pull up too, like all game, right? And it'll probably hit the first one, and they'll keep giving it to him.
Yeah.
But it's like no, just chill, let drive and kick to hit into 3. Like that one will be open too. You might not have known that in the first drive around, but like that one's open too. Better shot. But I think in terms of what kind of scares me about the Jalen and Marcus matchup is, you said this about the teams, and I thought this about this matchup specifically, is it's Jalen does not have to play great for Gonzaga to win this game.
No.
Marcus has to play great for Creighton to win this game.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Marcus has to play the best game of his career.
Like Jalen could play terribly all game long, and then like the BYU game have 2, or like whatever it may be, have 2 crazy leak out dunks.
Yes.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'm here," and then he starts locking up, and then it's like,
that's how dangerous they are. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so dangerous.
But at the same time, if it's a big if, but if Jalen is off and Kispert's off, that's enough to beat them.
Oh, that's easily enough. Yeah.
I mean, Temi probably will still kill you, and IIE will get, we'll make up some of the difference. They're not. That's what I mean. They're not a very deep team. They've only gone like 7 deep this whole tournament, and even the 7th guy is barely playing. So,
but this is
they
where
show
you're
you
right,
that starting 5. They show you who they are.
And this is where you're right though. Let Drew Timme kill us with 2s. We'll take that ball at the rim so quick, and CB will be so gone so fast. Like they can only kill us with so many 2s, so many layups in there. Yeah, because unless it's a rhythm where they're hitting like post up, then they get in transition, and then they're hitting maybe getting a like keep attacking the rim, maybe hit a pull up here and there. Like unless it's that, if it's really like just try to pound in, they're trying to pound in Drew Timme, I'll live with that. That's a game. Sign me up, because I see Creighton wins that game in my head 9 times out of 10. If you're trying
if you can keep Suggs and Kispert contained on the perimeter and just make them have to go through the post to beat you, that sounds right. Yeah,
because if none of their wing players feel like, oh, I can get my shot off like I normally can, like off any of these guys like normal, I can create space, I can get by my guy. If 2 of the 3 feel uncomfortable, we're in a good place.
Yeah, that's right.
We're in a very good place.
Yeah, make 2 of the 3 have to really, really work that day. Because I just think honestly, Gonzaga's defense is rated better than Creighton's, but I think Creighton is capable of making people more uncomfortable than Gonzaga is. They don't really protect the rim that well. They don't have like shot erasers. I actually think weirdly enough, like when you look, I know people don't think this of Creighton, but I think Creighton is better at protecting the rim than Gonzaga is.
I would agree.
I mean, like Ohio and
who wouldn't agree? Anybody else? Because they ranked Creighton as I saw the whatever it was on CBS.
The power rankings,
of the last 16, they said Creighton was, and this is why I'm glad you brought it up, because they said Creighton was the last at rim protection, and I don't know what metrics or what stats they were using.
They did?
Yes.
Let me see.
Or actually, no. I don't know if it was last, but it was in there.
Yeah, because Christian Bishop alone, Ohio and UCSB were 31% at the rim against him, 5 of 16. Overall, they were 17 of 39 against Creighton in general. So that's even 44%. That's garbage at the rim. If you're 44% at the rim, you're just, that's horrible. That's not even a tournament team finishing at the rim. So I think that's whoever said that is utterly talking out of their ass, because that's not even accurate.
Don't think that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, and the other part of it is, you know what else is the funny part is, like Creighton allowed UCSB and Ohio they held them to 44% at the rim. Creighton themselves were 73% on the other end. So like that's the thing with Creighton, is like they make it hard for you to do what they do best. So they're a rim and 3 team, right? And then the pull up game with Marcus and Denzel is and DJ's little fadeaway mid range, like that's the other part of it. But the rim and 3 component of this whole deal, if they get into a rim and 3 game with Gonzaga, I'm just saying I feel like that's what Creighton is going to win.
I'm okay with that.
Yes,
I'm okay with that.
I
Yeah,
am too.
I'm very okay with that.
Right.
Rim and that, and that's my point. So that's why I'm like, if they want to rim and 3 with Drew Timme, or I'm cool if we do that with CB. I'll take CB every time with that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if Creighton stays out of foul trouble, guarding him, I think that I think Timmy's gonna.
Do we know the rest for this?
I don't think we ever know the rest until
so we can effectively complain after.
I don't think we ever know them until tip.
We'll have to look them up. We'll have to look them up before tip off so we can know who we're going to complain about. Instead of the refs this week, I think I'll call them by first name.
God, I hope we don't have to complain about refs in this game. I just want it to be fun.
No, you have to. Come on, you have to assume like it's reverse psychology.
Assume I see what you're saying. Yep, got you. I pick it up.
Assume that we're gonna like complain about them, and then during the game we can just give them. We can be pleasantly surprised.
I got you. All right, I'm picking it up. All right. Well, this was a fun episode. I'm glad we got to talk to Flan and talk about Paige and Caitlin because I'm so stoked for that. I honestly don't. It's Gonzaga, Creighton, and then it's Paige, Caitlin. Like one.
Oh yeah, wait. The last thing I needed to say before we get off here is the swag bags for the women's NCAA. That was also very unacceptable. There's no reason. I'm sorry. There's no reason in the world that they can't get the same swag bags that the men get. There is no reason. I don't understand that. Why they can't get the same sneakers, why they can't get the same masks, socks, all of it. That's just weight room aside, like I'm just the swag bag for that.
Didn't the men get like deodorant and like soap and like
deodorant,
all
why
women
they got that too, but way lesser quantity, which I don't understand. Like I don't know. I get it. Where if you want to say it's, I actually don't get it. If you want to say it's about like the men bring in more money, stop. You could for swag bags. I guarantee women's NCAA makes enough money to equal out those swag bags.
Yeah, it's their own merch. It's their own merch.
Exactly.
Right.
And I just think to the point you brought up before about whoever like didn't like the optics of it. Clearly, no one cared like at the beginning, and I think that needs to be changed too. I don't know. I just have a huge problem with that. I think. Yeah.
I mean, screw the optics. Like you had one little weight bench for 64 teams.
But that's what I'm saying. I just think there was too much with the swag bags. There was way too much. So much could have been done for that, and I think there was someone didn't care. And I'm not trying to call anybody out or anything. I just think that there just needs to be more awareness brought to that issue as well, because that's just unacceptable. I played AAU all growing up in the EYBL circuits. Man, the women's EYBL gets more gear from making their tournament than that was, and that's
seriously
that's
messed up. Yeah.
And so like I think that and I've seen women I know who play at Division I who have even said the same thing. So that's where I'm getting it from. But I just think it should really that's unacceptable, and I think there just needs to be more light shed on that. So 100%. I had to give my pitch.
Yeah, some of it is like not important, but some of it at the same time. The whole situation, the whole picture is disrespectful when you look at the whole picture. Like if you isolate, if you want to talk about, it says women basketball on the court, and then some of the courts have different 3-point lines because they didn't fix them in time. They didn't get their NCAA courts in there. Sorry, excuse me, got the hiccups all of a sudden. But
when you get fired up,
maybe if you isolate, isolate that part, if I get fired up for all quality, I start hiccuping. When you isolate that part, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But when you put it all together, it's a huge deal, and it just shows the lack of respect that they give. Yeah,
it's disrespectful. It needs to change. I just needed to say my piece on that one.
Oh, we're not done. We're just scratching the surface on this one. We're not done.
Oh, absolutely. So, wait till after the season. These people are gonna get sick of us.
I know. We told them a long time ago. We said a long time ago we're done being reasonable about this stuff. So you know what you're getting into. But hey, Jordan, appreciate you. It was cool having Flan on and cool picking his brain. All right. This Scurry and the Scrub, I don't know what episode this is, like 14, 15, something like that. So we're getting into it.
Gonzaga week episode. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's Gonzaga week. We're going for blood.
That's right.
16 episode.
Paige, Caitlin, straight fire Saturday at noon Central Time. God's time, Jordan, Central Time.
Let's do it.
ABC, be in front of your televisions. That's going to be straight fire.
We'll be on Twitter. Fire tweets off at us.
Fire tweets, yeah. And then Gonzaga Creighton on Sunday, 1:00, CBS, Hinkle Fieldhouse. Marcus Zagorowski, Jalen Suggs, Mitch Ballack, Corey Kispert. Damian Jefferson, Ayayi, like Bishop Temi.
Let's
Woo!
do it.
Woo!
Let's do it.
Woo!
Let's do it.
Let's go. Thanks, everybody.
Sweet 16, baby. Here we come.